I'm Björn. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden, and I'm responsible for the technical side of Surfy Industries, kind of a technical director or something.
Okay. What's your technical background? How did you get into like circuit design or electrical engineering?
Well, I'm an engineer, and I've been working with electronics for many years, and also some software development. And I'm also a guitar player, been playing with bands, local bands here in Stockholm, especially when I was younger. And that led me into building guitar pedals, first fuzz pedals and distortion pedals, and later on also reverb units.
Mm-hmm. What was the first type of fuzz that you built?
Well, it's been many different kinds, and um, well, I can't really remember.
No, like a fuzz face, tone bend, or something like that. Something simple,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I
Okay.
remember building the Distortion Plus, and that was one of the first.
Okay. That's the MXR.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's a good place to start. Love that pedal. All right.
Yes.
Um, how did you get introduced to the guys at Surfy Industries?
Well, I got interested in surf music for about 15 years ago, and I went to the Surfy Joe Summer Festival in Livorno, and I met Lorenzo, and I even got my first prototype of the SurfyBear Reverb unit with me, and I showed it for him, and we were talking and discussing that it's very difficult to find a good reverb, especially here in Europe, and
Mm,
the ones you can find are expensive. And we decided to try to do a modern version of the 6 key 15 and make a product out of the prototype.
wow. So you were playing around with that circuit and building one before there was a company. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, the start was that I needed a good reverb because I was playing these old surf songs, and for making them sound right, you need a good reverb, and I
Hmm.
couldn't get the hold of one, and I tried to build one instead.
That's cool. It seems like a lot of inventions in history where somebody just saying, "I need one of these," and it doesn't exist. So I guess I'm just gonna have to build it myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what sparked your interest in surf music?
Well, I was building a guitar, and I was curious about the Jazzmaster guitar.
Mhm.
And I found out online that it was famous for being used for surf music. And I was looking into it, and I didn't know much about surf music at all. Here in Sweden, not many people know anything about surf music. So it was a very cool thing to discover a totally new kind of music. And
Mhm.
for me, it was amazingly to find something like that.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
Well, I think it's the sound of the guitars, and um, at the special expression when you play these songs with that kind of sound, and it's a very special feeling about it.
Okay. Do you have any favorites? Favorite artists?
Well, Dick Dale, of course, and many of the classics. I like them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. He's still the king of surf guitar, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you're in Sweden, but Lorenzo is in Italy, and then actually we have Ted over in the US who, we'll talk to next month. We'll talk to
Yeah.
Ted. But how does it work to collaborate across Europe and be in different countries like that and maybe even different time zones?
Well, it might seem a little bit complicated to work at a distance like this, but I think it works very well. And we have daily contact. Me and Lorenzo are talking and chatting and using video links. And I think it works very well. And I also
Yeah.
go to Italy 3 or 4 times a year, and we have a chance to meet in real life.
Mhm,
And Ted, we usually meet him at the NAMM show in
mhm,
January,
mhm.
and I think he will also come here to Europe in the autumn for the Guitar Summit in Germany.
Yeah, great. Okay. So what's your day-to-day like at Surfy Industries? Are you just constantly working on new circuits, new pedals, or I assume you're also, helping tape up some boxes and ship some things. Everyone's got to chip in, but you just kind of tell us what's your day-to-day like.
Well, it's very different. Some days I repair some stuff that I people send me, and sometimes I work with circuit design on my computer, and um, yeah, it's very different from day to day, and also a lot of playing guitar to make sure that that stuff sounds as they should,
Yeah.
and
If we could all only get a tax break on the time we spend playing guitar, that would be great, right? We need to write that off for business purposes. um, well, Surfy began with reverb units. What was the original breakthrough that made that first Surfy Bear possible? Because we're going from an old vintage tube reverb to, something that's still analog, but not tube driven. Were there like some initial challenges? Take us back to that first breakthrough.
um, I think the breakthrough was when I looked into the schematics of the Fender 6G15 Fender Reverb, and I found a way to modernize the circuit to use JFET transistors and surface mount components. And I think that when by using the same circuit, we found a way to make it sound very similar to the original. And I think that was a really cool thing. And um, the sound is very similar. And I think that was the first big thing for Surfy.
Okay. Was there something in that initial discovery with the JFETs that is still being reflected through the newer products that you're introducing?
Yes, we are using the same circuit still in all of our reverbs, and it's a base of our sound, and this sound that uh, the 6G15 is famous for. I think that's what we are looking for.
Mm. And I mean, if people don't already know, maybe we should tell them how close the Surfy Bear actually is to the Fender unit. It's essentially the same circuit, as I understand it, but with JFETs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so I mean, it's as close as you can get without hauling a big, heavy, vintage, old tube reverb around.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Okay.
And the sound and the feeling and how we drive the springs, it's all the same.
Mm. I want to get into some of the other pedals. Not just
Yeah.
pedals, really, all kinds of products that Surfy Industries has been introducing. But before we reference any specific ones, I'm kind of curious in the design phase or the engineering phase, how do you make a decision in terms of what needs to be vintage versus what parts you need to modernize?
Well, we try to use as much as possible from the original circuit and to preserve the vintage sound. But sometimes we also add some new features like volume controls and
Mhm.
true bypass and
Mm,
switching and things like that.
mm. Yeah.
And
I mean, that even shows up in iterations of Surfy Bear, right? So the classic isn't true bypass and doesn't have a volume, just like the original
no,
units. And some people really want that because that's the purest. But the Surfy Bear metal or the compact versions have that volume
mm,
control where it's sort of, I guess it's a clean boost, and
mm,
they're true bypass. So, um, I guess we're saying you can get it however you like it, right? You got a vintage and a modern. Um, but when you're developing a new product, how do you balance the circuit, the sound, like the feel, the usability, the way the player
mm,
interacts with it? I think as guitar players, we all understand how things feel like under the
mm,
fingers, right? And we understand the sounds because we've heard
mm,
all these records or we've played maybe vintage stuff, but you're making a different calculation. You're saying, I want that sound and this
mm,
feel, but there's things I need to modernize to make these more reliable,
mm,
or more convenient. And so there's some kind of trade off in there. And how
mm,
you're both an engineer and a guitar player. So walk us through that thought process of how you end up, with like the equation of
mm.
sound, feel, technology.
Well, it usually takes time, and it usually takes several prototypes and a lot of testing and adjustments and a lot of playing, and also usually meet in Livorno, me and Lorenzo, and we test them together, and we try to do A/B tests with his vintage equipment, his Showman and Fender reverbs, and it usually takes time, but it's usually worth it also because we try to get as close as possible to the original.
Mm. So I imagine that process is a lot of fine tuning, but have you ever had just a complete failure where you've designed something, you plugged it in, and was atrocious?
Yeah, yeah. I think it happens many times that I built something and I was so sure that this will be great, but it turns out not so great. So it
Okay.
happens.
In the Surfy Industries lineup, which was the hardest product to engineer?
Well, let me think. Um, there's been many that has been difficult, but I think the tremolo circuit. We are using the tremolo circuit from the Showman amplifier. It's
Mhm,
a bias modulated tremolo,
mhm,
and we and the original is based on a tube circuit, a
mhm,
double tube, and in order to recreate that circuit with JFET transistors, uh,
mhm,
we were doing a lot of different. We tried different ways of doing that.
mhm,
And first, we matched different transistors with each other to make sure that we had a pair that were close enough in characteristics. But that was really time consuming. And
mhm,
the next step was to find other components, and we managed to find double JFETs. And these components are much easier to work with, but the circuit needed to be adapted, and so it took several years before we found a really good solution for it.
several years, okay, interesting. And but now that those same tremolo circuits have showed up, not just in the standalone pedal, but also in, like, the SurfyBear Compact Deluxe, right?
Yes.
So okay, interesting. I mean, one of the newest things that Surfy Industries has come out with is the SurfyMan, um, which is very unique on the guitar market. So I was
Mm.
hoping you could tell us a bit about what it is, but also where did the
Mm.
idea for that come from?
Well, the idea actually comes from another pedal, the Blossom Point, a
Mhm,
pedal that we released a few years ago. And that pedal was supposed to recreate the sound of a Showman amplifier that is slightly overdriven into saturation. And and then you get a fat, slightly compressed kind of tone with a little sparkle on top. and it's that kind of sound we were looking for also with the SurfyMan.
Mm,
And with the SurfyMan, we have added more features like we are using the same input stage and tone stack, and also
mm,
the tremolo is the same as the Showman amplifier.
mm.
And I think we got very close to the original in how it sounds and works.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you call it like an amp in a box, or just like an effect pedal? How should if someone's
Mm,
not very familiar with it,
mm.
it might take them a second to like place it. Am I putting this into a different amp? Am I putting it into a power solution? How do you
Yes.
how do you look at it? How do you use it?
Well, I see it as a preamp with which you can use in many different ways.
Okay.
And you can use it at home with your headphones, and you can take it with you in your guitar case, and you can also use it as a regular guitar pedal
Mhm,
connected to your favorite amp,
mhm,
or you can use the line out for recording sessions or connect it to a PA or to a power amp.
interesting. I mean, what is that sound in those, brown-faced Showman era amps that you're looking for? What makes it different
Mm.
than like a tweed or a blackface Fender?
Well, here at Surfy Industries, we love the brown face kind of sound. It's I think the brown face era was the golden age of the Fender amplifiers. It's a fat, slightly compressed kind of sound, and it goes really well with different kinds of music styles. And actually, most of our customers are not into surf at all. They play all kinds of music, and I think the brown face amps are really versatile in that sense.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of kind of like swampy blues and early rock and roll played on brown faces, right? Um,
Yes.
for my guitar playing journey, the first time I took a Jaguar, put it into a reverb unit, into a
Mm,
blackface,
mm.
deluxe reverb, I felt like I got stabbed in the ear, and I was like, "I'm doing something wrong because that is the brightest, sharpest,
Mm,
glassiest
mm,
sound it was like cutting glass." And then
mm,
then I figured out the amp equation, and that was huge,
mm,
right? And the brown faces, they don't have that, I guess it's treble or headroom,
mm,
the glassiness, that you
mm,
associate with those black faces. And, I think getting to that more surfy sound was key for me to understand, um, the equation. And that's what the Blossom Point helps with, right? Is to kind of tone down an amp to absorb those bright guitars and that reverb.
mm.
I guess we should also note that that comes from Dick Dale, right? That's what he called his
Yes,
amp when it
yes,
hit the sweet spot, Blossom Point, right? So the king returns again in all these conversations. Um,
yes, yes. He's famous for his Showman and his Fender reverb.
yeah, as I understand it, Lorenzo has one or two of his old amps. Is that
Yes,
correct? Is that
yes,
what
that's
you were
true.
using to test the circuits against?
Yes, sure. We are doing a lot of A/B tests together in Livorno, and Lorenzo is still using his Showman sometimes on stage, and they are a bit fragile, but it's a really cool amp.
Did Dick Dale's amps, did it have a lot of modifications done to it, the one that you're talking about?
Which one?
Yeah, well, sorry, does he have one or more than one?
I think he has two, but they are from different years. I'm not sure about how different they are.
Yeah, I just wondered if they were uniquely modified versus one someone might get, like, on the used market right now. Is it a different sound?
No, I don't think they are modified in any way, but I don't know.
When you're referencing a classic amp like the Brownface, what are you looking for from like a technical perspective, right? I imagine it's like EQ, compression, headroom, the breakup style.
Mm.
Are these things that all are looked at like separately? Maybe you can tell us about the recipe for how you get all these things right.
Well, I think there is no easy recipe for this. It's a lot of um, personal taste and trying to compare with the originals. And uh, I think the breakup and the overload, overdrive characteristics are important. And there is a lot of testing needed in order to get it to sound right. And um, it usually takes a lot of time.
hmm What was the biggest challenge in creating this Surfy Man?
Yeah, I think it was the to get the overdrive characteristics to sound as similar as possible to the original.
Mm,
And you need some compression and also some um, um, some saturation in the tone in order to make it sound fat and have that brown face kind of sound.
mm. Is it different than like a typical amp in a box or a preamp? Like if it's like we have these Marshalls in a box or something like. Is it
Mm.
different from those types of pedals?
Well, I think it's a very good pedal for brown face kind of sounds, and it's
Mm,
also very convenient and versatile. You can use it in many different ways,
mhm,
and you can use it with headphones at home or with an amp or with a recording device.
mhm.
So you can have it use it in many different ways. It's not just a guitar pedal.
Right. Is it the exact same circuit as the amp? Kind of like how the SurfyBear Reverbs are, extremely close to the Fenders?
Yes, we are trying to use many of the big part of the original schematics, the input stage and the tone stack and the tremolo section. Those are very similar to the original, and I think
Mm,
that's one key to make it sound very similar.
mm, okay. Did you design the aesthetic of how the Surfy Man looks? Because it's so killer. It's so cool looking. So how did you guys come upon that?
Well, I think I had the original idea for that how it should look,
Mhm,
and it was I think it was cool to have it look just like the original amp to make it think about how it sounds.
mhm. Yeah. Okay. It's definitely an eye popper. Let's talk about Surfy Power, which is even more
Mm.
recent. So first the Surfy Man came out, right? And we had all these options for how we could play it, but more recently you came out with the Surfy Power, which is, I mean, it's power for the Surfy Man. So maybe walk us back to how did you decide that the Surfy Man needed a companion, needed a brother in arms here, the Surfy
Mm.
Power.
Well, um, uh, I heard from several customers that they were looking for power amps for their Surferman, and
Mhm,
we were thinking that it could be a cool thing to have a power amp designed to connect to the Surferman,
mhm,
and it's supposed to sound like a full showman driving a speaker directly, and that was the original idea. And
mhm. Yeah. So, well, tell us what the Surfy Power is. Maybe we need to back up a little bit, right? So it's power, but
yeah.
maybe you can share some tech details with us.
Well, it's a power amp, a very small power amp in a box that you can attach the Surfy Man on top, and the Surfy Power is a power amp you get 100 watts in 8 ohms and close to 200 watts in 4 ohms. And you have two speaker outputs and a line input that is connected to the SurfyMan with a jumper cable. And these two units are connected to each other with magnets, making them a complete amplifier in a very convenient size.
Yeah.
And
Was it a tough engineering challenge to make the SurfyPower?
well, we wanted it to be small enough to be placed underneath the SurfyMan, and it should also be powerful. And a good way of accomplish this is to use the Class D technology. And it's a switching kind of amplifier that is very efficient. It doesn't generate almost any heat at all. And it's a very convenient way of building a power amp, and you can adjust the tone in an easy way to make it sound similar to a tube amplifier.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s, when you were designing a power amplifier, it was kind of a black art. It was really difficult to make it sound good, and it's much easier nowadays.
So tell me, how in the world did you come up with the idea to connect the SurfyMan and the SurfyPower by magnets like that? I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. It was Lorenzo's idea, and it's a very convenient way to connect the SurfyMan on top of the SurfyPower, and it makes them a complete portable unit. And yeah, it's a really cool thing.
So what do you think guitar players should know about like what kind of speaker cabinets to put it through or how they set it up on a
Hmm.
stage and use it in a real world situation?
Well, the SurfyPower can be used for any speaker. You have two outputs on the back, and you can use 4 or 8 ohm speakers. And at the same time, you have a line out connector on the back, which can be used for connecting to a PA or recording device. And I think it works pretty much as any guitar amp in that sense.
Okay. So do you look at the SurfyMan, the SurfyPower, and the SurfyBear together as sort of like a full platform?
Well, they are designed to sound really good together.
Uh-huh.
But I think if you already have your favorite amp, maybe a SurfyBear Reverb is all you need. It's a matter of taste, of course.
Mhm. So Surfy started with reverbs, but since then you expanded into all these other products like fuzz pedals, the vibe
Mhm.
pedals, the stereo maker, all kinds of different things. So what drove the expansion into other types of pedals?
Well, we love the vintage sounds from back in the 60s, and I think those pedals, the tremolo and the vibrato and the fuzz, they are a part of that era, and I think it's a good mix and a nice addition to the reverbs and the other pedals we have.
Hmm. Did you from the outset, have this vision that you wanted to make all of these products?
No, it's usually a discussion. We
Okay.
have we always have ideas we talk about, and it's very much a collaboration with Lorenzo. What kind of products we should work on for next year's NAM or something like that.
Mm, interesting. It recently too, you have these products like the stereo maker, the Surfy Spider, which
Mm.
are they're not necessarily effects pedals, right? Especially the Spider, it's about like routing connectivity. It's a stage tool. Um, that takes Surfy into a different category and kind of changes the company, right? You know, it's not
Mm,
just effects pedals, you're
mm,
broader, let's say like audio equipment. Could
mm.
you tell us a little bit behind like the engineering and the thought process there, or even why you would want to make these products?
Yeah, I think it was to start with. It was there was some ideas we had about cool things that we could maybe make a product out of,
Hmm.
and I think it's nice to have a good mix of different kinds of pedals, and I think the stereo maker and the spider are quite unique in that sense. I don't think there are anything similar on the market. So I think it's those are cool, I think.
Yeah. Well, what challenges do those solve for guitar players or bass players in this case too?
Well, the stereo maker, for example, it's kind of an ABI switch, and but we have added an extra feature, the stereo maker feature. So when you are in stereo mode, you activate this stereo maker circuit that creates a circuit, but creates a difference between left and right channel.
Hmm.
It's an analog circuit, and it's kind of the same circuit that were used back in the 60s for making stereo effects out of mono recordings.
Hmm.
And it's a comb filter that creates differences between the left and right channel.
Hmm. What does the Surfy Spider do?
Well, the Surfy Spider is more like a tool and a problem solver in some way. And it's a convenient thing to have with you if you are connecting different equipment, and you don't have all the cables for connecting everything you want. Then you can use the Surfy Spider to connect different kinds of cables on one side, and they are rerouted to the other side.
Hmm.
So that makes it easier to connect different kinds of equipment, and
Hmm.
it's
What's an example of the cables or the equipment?
well, for example, if you are connecting a turntable and you have the phono connectors on one side, and
Mhm.
on the other side you don't you want to use some other connectors, for example, XLR or something. You can
Mhm.
connect the XLRs on the output side and the RCA phono cables on the input side.
Okay.
And the spider reroutes the signals from the input to the
Mm.
output.
Well, lots of turntables used in vintage surf music, and I kid, but actually, it kind of takes me to the next question I want to ask about. If someone's not strictly into surf music, you know, what's is there any value for them in the whole lineup for Surfy?
Well, I think so.
Mhm.
Almost most of our customers are not into surf music at all.
Mhm.
They they are looking for a cool sound, and I think our pedals are into the vintage type of sound, and it can be
Mhm.
used for so many different kinds of music styles, and
Mhm.
it could be the bass sound for many different music styles.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, just seeing people using, you know, Surfy Bear on Instagram or on YouTube, most aren't
Mm,
playing surf music at
no,
all. You know, it's
no, no.
you know, like kind of old school rock and roll for sure, but just
Mm,
like garage music, indie music, you know,
mm,
old school rock. Um, I absolutely love the episode of that pedal show when they're using the Surfy Bear metal, and I was blown away for the sound of it was a Les Paul into the Surfy Bear metal into a deluxe reverb, and it
mm,
sounded killer. And I remember mixing, he kind of preferred it to the amp reverb and was
mm,
shocked by that, right? And they even kind of made a pedal board out of the Surfy Bear
mm.
metal, which I've seen a few times. I saw on 60 Cycle Hum too. They're kind of trying to make a pedal board out of the unit
Yes.
itself, which is tempting. Um, and so if someone's already got like a favorite amp or something they're into, where does the SurfyMan, SurfyPower fit into their life?
Well, I think the SurfyMan is a really cool pedal to use, even if you have your favorite amp. You can change your sound into something completely different, or you can use your SurfyMan and take it with you if you're playing at home with headphones or recording. And I think the SurfyMan can be used for many different things, and you can of course also connect the SurfyPower to it if you like to convert it into a complete amplifier.
Will the SurfyPower work? Like, let's say if someone's using a digital interface, like an HX Stomp or something, and they want to power a cab, can it just be used with any product like that?
The SurfyPower is works
Yeah.
like any power amp, and it can drive all kinds of speakers, and
Okay.
you can just use the outputs on the back in an
Mhm.
ordinary way. Yes.
Okay. Lorenzo did caution me, you got to have a high powered speaker, right? Or at least be careful
Yes.
'cause that's
Yes.
high
I think you
wattage,
should.
right?
Yes, absolutely. Especially at 4 ohms, you will get a lot of power out of it.
Yeah. Well, if you're going for that Kinks torn speaker sound, the
Mm.
Surfy Power will get you there. Just turn it all the way up and see what happens. Uh,
Yes.
do you have any favorite Surfy Industries products?
Well, I don't know for sure. I guess they are all my babies, so I love them all.
Okay. Are there any technical achievements that you're most proud of?
Well, I guess the first one when we made the first reverbs based on the Fender 6G15, I think that was special, especially since that started the whole thing, and it's also very important for surf music and for everybody who likes a good reverb. So
Okay. Um, don't tell us any future secrets, nothing confidential, but are there any challenges that you're interested in solving, for guitar
mm,
players, like where you take the brand at? Because we discussed it, there's been some more utilitarian products.
mm.
Do you think you'll continue in that vein?
Well, we have a lot of ideas, and we have a lot of discussions, me and Lorenzo, and I'm not sure what we will become next yet. We are talking about different ideas,
Okay.
but there are lots of cool stuff from back in the 60s with related to the vintage kind of sound. I
Hmm.
think something like that will most certainly come more of.
Good. We can expect that the word surfy will be in the name of the product, though, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you ever think you'll release a product without the word surfy in it?
I don't know. I think it's
I guess
mostly
the Blossom
Lorenzo
Point.
that thinks about these things.
Yeah, I guess Blossom Point. It wasn't
Yeah,
the surfy Blossom Point. So okay,
yeah,
so there's room for some deviation there.
yeah.
Um, okay. When players plug into a Surfy Industries product, what do you hope they feel?
Well, I hope that they really like the sound they are getting, and possibly that they recognize the sound from old songs and records from the 60s. And yeah, I, I hope they will be happy and with the pedals.
Okay, great. I want to thank you for your time. Can wrap it up there.
Okay, thank you so much.